how did you know what to ask for? So I told him. I told him everything. I went to the other side. Light beings took me. I seen Jesus, and they told me what to ask for. Jesus told me what to ask for.
This is Eagle Freedom Presents.
What if the end of your life was actually just the beginning? And in the process, you have an encounter with Jesus. Jacqueline Zralka is a Reiki master teacher, an intuitive channel of healing, and she and I actually share a very special connection in that we're both contributing authors to the brand new book, Miracles Are Normal. Now, the title of her chapter is The Death of Me Was a Blessing for Me. And today we're going to talk about what exactly that title means and why it is so fitting. So would you please welcome to the show, Jacqueline.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's great to have you, and it's great to have a contributing author to the same book. I know it's amazing how, connections are made, and it's really great that we've been able to connect on this. And your story is just, we were talking about this. I think the word that comes to mind is spiritual. I mean, your story is a very spiritual story. So let's just jump right into it. Your story really begins with you just kind of not feeling well. So tell us what the heck was going on that led you to this encounter.
Well, it was just the day before Memorial Day. And just prior before that, about a month before that, I had a UTI infection that I went to the doctor for and received antibiotics and healed from. So I thought. So the day before Memorial Day, we were going to my sister's house for a barbecue, and I just did not feel good. I started just getting stomach cramps, nausea, and it just kept getting worse. Then the fevers were crazy high, 104, 104.3. It was real high, and I couldn't get them down. And so everyone's like, please go to the emergency room. So I finally did. And it was a UTI. This is a day before we go to my sister's. And it was a UTI. So they gave me antibiotics. I went home and rested. And my sister had already bought all this food, and my friends were meeting me there. So I definitely wanted to go. And so we went, and I just got worse and worse and worse. The fevers would not go away with Tylenol or ibuprofen. And then I was halfway through the day, my husband just looked at me and said, I started shaking uncontrollably, and I couldn't stop shaking. And I guess I was talking pretty like crazy, like confusing, And so I said I'd go to the ER. And the next day, or that day, we went to the ER, and they took blood work, and it was in my blood, the infection, which is not good. So they right away put me into the UCI. Am I saying that right? Yeah, the intensive care unit.
ICU unit. There you go.
ICU. Wait, I was like, wait, that does not sound right. And so I went there, and they started IV antibiotics right away, and I started to get more confused. And a lot of it I don't remember, except my husband's like, you were talking like out of your head. I would just stare out the window, I guess. And I said, oh, this bird said that I'm going to be okay. And they're like, what? And I just would talk crazy. And unfortunately, they gave me my phone. I did a lot of texting, and which is not a good idea. But anyway, so I progressively got worse, and I don't remember a lot of it except that these doctors were being called in from the CDC. And so I thought, oh boy, either I'm really important or I'm really sick, because they could not get any antibiotics to work, and I had no output. And they said my kidneys were failing. So it was a scary time. I had no output for 3 days. So at this point, the doctors came in to talk to me, and I don't really remember what they were saying, except they were staring at me. And I had a lot of tests done in between there, even a spinal tap. They put me in isolation thinking that I had meningitis, that the infection was due to meningitis. And so they did a spinal tap, and they wanted me to stay very still, which when you're shaking uncontrollably, all I could hear was the bed, me against the cart, and it was clinking. that clink, 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 clink. And they're like, oh, you have to stay still. We're going into your spine. I'm like, okay. But they had to lay on me. Nurses had to lay on top of me to get my body to stay still. And so they ruled that out, thank goodness, because they wouldn't let my family come in, only one at a time. And everyone had to be gowned and gloved. And I couldn't understand them with the masks on. And so it was very frustrating. So when the CDC stepped in, they would ask me a bunch of questions and I just didn't understand what they were saying to me. And then I remember getting very angry. And I thought I was sitting up. And I said, listen, don't just stand and stare at me. Do something, you morons. And I was very angry at this point. And I did apologize to everyone before when I left. I said, I'm
Well,
so
that's good.
sorry. I did not know what I was saying at the time. But I did feel very angry. And that's when the angels came in to take me.
So the CDC is being called in. So obviously it's something major, as you said, something's going on there. Your kidneys are failing. You're just overwhelmed. You're mad at the doctors, right? Because you're wanting to get some answers. You don't get the answers that you want. So you're just got this overwhelming sense of anger right now. And
Mhm.
do you remember actually being angry at that time? Do you remember what, the
Yes,
emotion of all that?
I do. I remember being very angry. I had a very severe headaches that would not go away no matter what they gave me. And they put me on some strong stuff that I remember saying, whatever you just gave me, don't ever give that to me again. And it was fentanyl. That was terrible because I was so out of it. It made me really, really loopy, even more so than I already was. But I had to wear sunglasses because if even a small amount of light would just shoot through my head, I can't even explain it, like a lightning bolt. It was excruciating. So I was very angry at that point. Yes.
So you're going through all of this. You're having this kind of confrontation with the doctors, but at some point you kind of realize that you're no longer in the hospital bed. Tell us about that moment. Take us back to that moment.
Oh, so at that very moment, I felt like I was sitting up in my bed. It was very surreal. I felt like I was sitting up and I was pointing my finger, like, just don't stand and stare at me. Do something. Help me. And they didn't hear me and they were talking amongst themselves. And I thought, well, how rude is that? I'm talking to them and they're talking among themselves. And then I heard someone say, it's time that you come with us. Come with us. A very soft female voice. And I felt someone take my hand and it became very dark and I was feeling around the bed and then I realized I was not in that bed. And then I opened my eyes and I was like, they said, you can open your eyes. I opened my eyes into a golden field and there were three of these light beings with me and they were beautiful. They were so golden, just bright, bright golden light. And I really couldn't see their faces. It was all light. It was beautiful.
So
Yeah.
what kind of energy did you feel with the moment they're grabbing, they're taking your hand and you see all of this? What kind of energy is going through your body?
Oh my gosh. No pain. The headache is completely gone. It was like relief and excitement. I was thrilled. I wasn't cold anymore. I was just shaking and shaking, which I'm always cold. I'm freezing right now. But I was so cold at that point. And I couldn't get warm no matter what. I would ask for heating blankets, but they would not give it to me because of my fevers being so high. Instead, they would put ice packs behind my neck, and down my back, and it was just horrible. So at this point, I felt all this warmth, and I was like, yes,
So
take
all
me
this,
there.
so yeah, so this is going on. I mean, and this is just the beginning of your journey. So take us into what happens next with you.
Okay, so they said, they really didn't say a whole lot to me. And then I noticed that they were facing forward, but we were talking. And I said, oh my gosh, they can hear what I'm saying and I can hear what they're saying, but I can't see their faces or anything, but we could hear each other in our heads. So I knew it was a different type of feeling, and that they were special for sure. And so I would just follow them, and it would get more pretty. I mean, after you started walking through this field, there was a tree line, and you're walking through all this golden, it looked like wheat. But as you got farther in, it would just become more beautiful, more bright, and I could hear a waterfall. And I knew we were getting closer to this waterfall because I could hear it and you could smell water. And I thought, oh, this is going to be exciting. I can't wait to see this. So as we're walking, it was kind of like a forest kind of thing, but there was a pathway. And then I could see these flowers. Like there is just no words for the color, the brightness, the warmth, and then the love you feel on top of it. It was just like, oh, this is heaven. And I kept saying that in my head and thinking, oh my gosh. And then as I walked closer, I could hear the waterfall and I could see it. And there was this huge, huge rock down this path to the right. And I mean, huge, like a boulder. And they said, oh, just wait here. But I could see in the corner of my eye this waterfall that was this turquoise blue. I don't know if you've ever been to like the Virgin Islands or the St. Thomas. The
Mhm.
water is this turquoise blue, and you can't even take your eyes off of it. It was just incredible. And they said to wait there, so I waited.
So as you're describing this, I can see as you're talking about this, you're kind of like probably envisioning what you're talking about. You're going back in your mind. You're seeing this,
Mhm.
and reading it on words is one thing, but seeing you talk about it, it just really brings all of that to life. You can almost actually through you, we can actually see what you're actually seeing. So that just about must have been an incredible experience.
It was. It really was. And just to have no pain at that point was just such a relief. And yeah, just no words. So that they told me to wait there by the rock. And they faced me away from it, which I thought was kind of strange, but I listened to them for a second and then I couldn't help myself. I started turning around slowly because I wanted to see that because it was just, there was a valley of flowers around it. And then there was like this tunnel, kind of like where the waterfall was, there was a tunnel. And I wanted to see under that tunnel so bad. And then I felt the touch of the hand. And then this part is, yeah. Um, oh, I can still. So when he placed his hand on my shoulder, I turned around.
I can tell this is a very emotional thing for you to
Yeah,
relive in your mind about what you're about to describe to our audience.
it's extremely, extremely hard. I still like have a hard time talking about it, but his energy is beyond anything you've ever had. But you can't help but cry, not because you're sad, but because of the love. And so I fell to the ground. And then I looked up at him and he put his hand on my head and I instantly just got calm. Thank goodness, because I thought I'm going to talk to him without crying. But it's very hard. And so I know my old self hurt a lot because I was there for a while. I remember, I think it felt like hours. I don't know how long I was there, but all I do know is it was what I needed for my old self to heal.
Hmm.
And I definitely did beyond. Well, my sister kept saying, there's a new song with Carrie Underwood. Um, and it says, there's something in the water. And she goes, you've got to hear it because that's you. She said, I
Mhm.
completely changed. And she said, you're nothing like you were. I used to, no one really like understood me. So I felt misunderstood all the time. I wasn't good with words and people would turn that. And I was a really sensitive person.
So you're having this experience, you're having this one-on-one experience that not a lot of people get to have or they talk about.
Yeah.
So was there a conversation? Were you having words? What was going on when you're just alone with him?
Well, he would tell me, I remember him saying, he told me about going under this waterfall. If you, once you go under the waterfall, that's where heaven is. And I said, and he said, and once you go there, you don't come, you can't come back through it. So once you go under this waterfall, you're on the other side of heaven, you're in heaven, and there's no coming back then. And that's when he would talk, he asked me, do you want to stay here? And I was like, yes, I want nothing more than to stay right here with you forever. And he said, are you sure? And I just remember staring at his sandals. He had a beige long robe on with these beige sandals. And I just remember staring at his sandals. I was like, oh my gosh. And his robe. And he had the long hair, like curly, like you see, just exactly how I envisioned as a child. My grandma would always read the Bible to me and take me to church with her. And she would always talk about Jesus and stuff, but he looked just like his pictures, most certainly. But the most loving, I mean, like he is like a father figure, is what he felt like to me, just the most loving, caring energy. Um, and I think that was the emotions that that came. We're just so overwhelmed with those emotions. Um, but that um, for me to write what I want in life, to write it. And I thought, oh my gosh, I always journal. And so I did that after I came back. I have a journal next to me and I went through many journals. And I believe that's what how you manifest.
Mhm. So you talk about this, him asking you, do you want to stay? And obviously what you're seeing, what you're feeling, I mean, probably just elation, just the energy that you're getting from this moment. And then he turns to you and he says, do you want to stay? And you say yes, but that's not where the story ends, right? What happens
Mm-mm.
in that moment?
Well, when I was down on my knees, I felt like I just wanted to pray with him. He tapped his foot. He said, do you want to stay? And I said, oh, most certainly. He tapped his foot on the ground and I could see like a glass. It turned to like clear where I could see down below and I could see in my hospital room, my husband and my two girls praying and crying. And I thought, oh my gosh, I cannot leave them. I have two young girls and my husband, he'll have no clue what to do. So that is what I told Jesus. And he laughed. He thought that was funny when I said, because he will have no clue how to take care of them. I think he thought that was quite funny, but it was true. And so he said, okay. And then he held his hand on my hand once again. And I just prayed with him. And then right then I went back into my body. I had the pain again, but he told me what to ask for. When you go back, there are two things you have to ask if you want to stay here. This will save your life. And it was potassium and Lasix, because at this point, my kidneys shut down. There was no output. This was the third day. And so I went back and I was in my hospital room with my husband and my kids. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I just held my hand on my heart and I could hear the female light being say, call the nurse. And like they were reminding me. And so
So
I did.
So this happens and you're back in your bed now, you're back in the hospital, you're back in your body, your failing body, right? Your failing
Yeah.
body, as you talk about, and you're told what to ask for from the doctors. So when
Mhm.
you're having this conversation with the doctors, what was their faces like when you're telling them this is what I need? Were you trying to tell them about the vision that you had? Tell us about that part of the conversation with the doctors when you come back.
Okay. Well, first I just told the nurse that I wanted these meds. And she said, okay, I'll call the order in and see what your doctor says. And at that point, they were willing to try anything at this point. And then when it worked for me immediately. These doctors came back in from the CDC and they said, how did you know what to ask for? So I told them everything. I went to the other side. Light beings took me. I seen Jesus and they told me what to ask for. Jesus told me what to ask for. And that would save me. And he said, well, and they just, at first their eyes all looked really big, like, what? And then they kind of looked at each other like, well, at this point, we had no idea how to help you. They already tried 4 or 5 different antibiotics that would not work, and different medicines did not work. And then these two were working, and they were amazed. But they believe me for sure.
So once you get this new medication, how much longer are you in the hospital? How was the recovery from that point on?
I was just there 2 extra days. They wanted to make sure that I continuously had output because my kidney numbers were very bad, where I had to see a kidney specialist afterwards because they weren't sure that I would have to have dialysis at this point. I was like, oh my gosh. And I wasn't even sure what dialysis was for sure. Um, but I knew that they had to be pretty bad. So once I started, healing, just everything changed. I had output after output, and they were just amazed that this worked so well. And so was I grateful.
So you come out of this, you're starting to feel better, and you also make a
Mhm.
comment that you reversed your health issues that you had. You spent 2 extra days in the hospital, obviously.
Mhm.
Um, how much of that physical healing do you think you attribute to the spiritual encounter that you had in that golden field?
Oh my gosh, 100%. I had diabetes, high blood pressure. I was on 13 different medications and 2 insulins because I had bad diabetes. I had an A1C of over 10. I was not good, health wise. Um, So everything has changed since then. I do not know, I no longer take any medicines at this point. Um, and I no longer have diabetes anymore. And my doctor
Oh.
is just, wow. And I could stick to a diet finally. And I lost 140 pounds.
So let me ask you, when you come to and you're back in the bed and you're starting to get healthy, there's some point where you have a conversation with your family and explaining to them what you've gone through, and what was their reaction when you're telling them this?
Well, they were just so afraid because I was declining quick. And my sister, um, I believe she knew because she just happened to watch on TV the story of Anna Nicole Smith. And I didn't know this, but she had the same type of septic shock. She went into septic shock. And so she came right away to the hospital and said, oh my gosh, I think she has this. So that really put a lot of fear into them. Um, so when I started talking about this, they were very relieved, but they knew something happened because I was just declining so quickly. And to come back and ask for 2 different medicines and to heal was just kind of shocking. Yeah.
So you come to, and obviously before all this, as they mentioned, you were saying stuff that didn't make sense, right? To that. So
Yeah.
was there a point when you're coming out of this, they're also going they're not sure that you're making sense now either?
Yeah. When I talked about the bird coming to the window, they were just like, oh boy. And my husband was just like, they didn't know, I don't think for sure to believe it at first. But as I got better and more clearer minded, um, I started making more sense. I asked for a Bible when I was there. And my husband asked me, why did I ask for the Bible? And I said, oh, I had these encounters with these light beings. And I think he definitely believed me because he said when um when I came to, when I woke up and asked for those meds, I just had this light around me and a big smile. So he was kind of like, whoa, she looks much happier because I was angry before that.
So let me ask you, let's kind of go back a little bit to prior to all of this happening, maybe towards maybe your upbringing. Were you in a family that relied on faith? You guys go to church a lot. What was your upbringing like in your early life?
Well, my mom and my father were divorced when we were about 5 years old, and I have a twin brother. And so they came and got us from Ohio, and we moved in with my grandparents. And my grandma's very religious. Yes. So she would take me to church all the time. Until the day she died, we would talk of Jesus and um everything, angels, and read the Bible together, do the rosary together, And then went to CDC class and all that. Yeah. So it was a very religious upbringing. I went to, church all the time. Every Sunday, she would want you to bring back before dinner. You had to bring back that mass, the booklet to prove you were at church.
What you do now, you're a Reiki master, intuitive channel of healing. Were you doing this before all this happened, or is this post all of this happening?
This happened in 2015. And I believe, yeah, it was 2016 when I really delved into the Reiki. Um, and then the connection became incredible. Yeah, I got some stories on that one too, but the healings, like I'll just give you an instant. My dog just would not walk anymore. And I took her to 5 different specialists. She was a little Maltese and she was only 5 years old and like 6 pounds. So I took her to a specialist and then they sent me to another specialist. They could not figure out what was wrong with her. And my friend said, I will teach you Reiki if you want. And I thought, well, what is that? So she showed me it, told me it, and taught me it pretty much in an afternoon. I said, okay. And every day my dog would get better and better. And I also use it with prayer. So, but she started walking again and I didn't have to force, fluids or anything. And then I said, but what is making her sick out loud? And she went to my runner, a plastic runner, and peed in the shape of a tooth. I have the picture. So I took a picture of it quick and I called my vet. And she said, oh, she goes, you've spent so much money at this point. I feel bad. And I said, no, check her teeth. I wanted her to check her teeth. And she put her under, and her gums were rotting underneath her gums, into going into her blood infection. Same type of thing going on. And had to remove 13 teeth.
So how does that for individuals out there who aren't into, don't understand what, Reiki master teacher is or what it is exactly that you do, how you help individuals. Tell us how you do that with the individuals.
Well, I teach them how to ground into Mother Earth and to connect with the divine. Where I have them plug into this divine, and you're opening up your crown and you're allowing this golden white light. And that's what I've seen when I went to the other side. And they will show your golden white light. And I still connect to these beings to this day. Um, thank goodness, because they've helped me a lot. Um, but they will surround you in that. And and that is how you heal. I always say prayers. I mean, I have my favorite things behind me, and it's Jesus, candle, Mother Mary. And in Reiki, there is no religion, but with me, I pray and I still connect to the heavens. And anyone can use healing and anyone can heal if you believe and you connect and you open yourself up to it.
For our listeners out there that are tuned in right now here on Eagle Freedom Presents, maybe they're facing their own dark moment, whatever that dark moment is, right? Everybody's dark moment is different. Like physical, it could be mental, it could be spiritual that they're experiencing.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most important truth that you brought back from the other side that they need to hear today?
To trust, to believe, pray. When you need something, ask God, ask Jesus, ask them to help you. We all are come here with angels. Everybody is assigned an angel because I believe my angel was with me when I was going to the other side. She was the first light being. I call them light beings, but they were angels. um, and they will guide you. And when you just quiet your mind, um, I couldn't always quiet my mind, but then when I concentrated on my breath, when I would take deep breaths in and I would count, 1, 2, 3, 4, release, 1, 2, 3, 4. When I started doing that, my mind could go and connect, and you will hear what you need to hear.
So people often experience that whole thing with the brain. Your mind just gets so active, so overwhelmed in
Yeah.
life, and because it's one thing after another. We get up or our day just takes off, and it seems like we never catch up with our day. So
Yeah.
what do you think is a key for those who just get up and their day is just taken off with them? How can they reclaim some of that back and get some calm in their life?
Oh, definitely meditation and prayer. I try to do it when I first wake up. I try to connect and ground myself, and connect, surround myself with a divine white light. I always say, connect me and surround me with divine white love and protection. So be it, so it is done. Amen. And I try to always and visualize it, even if you can't feel it, visualize light going all the way around you, and then connect you. Because when you're grounded and you're surrounded in light, nothing can touch you. And I'm telling you, yesterday, I was coming back from my parents' house on the expressway, and it was all this construction. And we came to a sudden stop, and there's only 2 lanes. There was a car behind me going so fast, and I thought, oh, dear Lord, help me now. And I thought he is going to crash behind me. And he had enough time to rear around me. Thank goodness.
Has this experience improved, family life at home? Are your kids into, experiencing what you're experiencing? Do they ask questions about your experience?
Oh, yes. Well, at first they did not. But once they've seen everything that is going on with me, now they are always, can you pray for me? Will you help me? I want this job. And I'm like, you could do it for yourself, so I try to teach them that. Now they're very on board, where they were just really not before, but yeah, and they see, and they're now their friends even ask, can you help me? Can you pray for me?
Words getting out, in other words, right?
Uh-huh.
So for those who want to find out more about you, more about what you do, how can they contact you? How can they get in touch with you?
They can go on Healing with Angels and Intentions. I started a group right after my dog Carly. She lived for 3 more years and then she passed away in 2018. But I connected with her all the time. And that's another thing, you can connect with your loved ones. But I would see her in the clouds. And when my father died, um, same thing. I seen him in the clouds clear as day, but I told him how to go to the other side. This is a really cool thing. And I told him I would take him to the river to pray with me all the time. He said, will you teach me your woo woo? Because he knew he was going to the other side soon. And he was terrified. He said, I was divorced 4 times. I'm going straight down. I'm like, you're not going straight down. They don't judge you like that on the other side at all. Um, but I would take him and I told him about the river and the beautiful waterfall and how you go under it to the other side. And when my dad took his last breaths, he, I went to move him over because everyone was saying goodbye. They knew it was soon he was on hospice. And when I said, Dad, I'm going to move you over to the middle, it's Jackie. He opened one eye and he smiled, like half smiled at me. And then he took a deep breath and held it. And then he just went, and I knew, oh my gosh, he just went under the waterfall. He held his breath to go under. And so then I couldn't believe it. And I truly believe that is them taking him.
Let's kind of change subject, not really change, but direction, and that is Miracles Are Normal is the book that's just come out. So tell us about what made you
Sorry.
want at this particular time to tell this story now. What made you motivated to say this is the time for my story to come out?
So my friend Tamara, she asked me to join her to write a book in a story, talked about my story. And so I was very excited to do so. And I'm in the middle of writing my whole book. and to share with everybody. Because I think it could help anybody because anybody can have that healing their life and their body. And it's not only helped mine, it's helped other people in my family, that have been sick. And I truly believe in the power of prayer. And you can help loved ones.
We've covered quite a bit here. Your journey is just like I mentioned when we started, it's a very spiritual journey. Your story is very spiritual. Is there
Yeah.
anything that maybe we've missed in this conversation that you would like to instill in our listeners and our audience out there about your overall experience about what you went through?
Well, I think I've changed just so much because like I said, before that, I had a lot of people would misunderstand what I would say or twist what I would say. And it would be a lot of chaos. My life felt a lot of chaos going on. Where after this, um, chaos kind of stayed away from me. I don't know if it's because I cleansed ground and surrounded myself, but chaos stays away from me to this day, kind of. I don't allow it either. I have strong boundaries, um, and I don't really allow that. So maybe that's why. Um, but yeah, I feel very different and connected. But manifesting, if you ask and you believe and you trust, write it down in a journal and keep seeing it, visualize it. And basically, that's what Jesus made me feel like. You can have anything you want here on earth if you visualize it, believe you have it, and trust is coming. And you can have anything because we're behind you. They want only good for us.
So,
100%.
real quick, did you have these boundaries before your experience, or did these boundaries become established after your encounter?
After I did not have good boundaries, I was definitely um, was too nice, uh, kind of like a pushover. Um, I would do whatever needed to be done so there wouldn't be chaos. Kind of like people pleasing. I noticed I did a lot of. There's none of that now. I don't do that. I don't even accept it,
All right.
much
Well,
stronger.
right. And I'd imagine that coming out of an experience like that, you would be much stronger. I mean, I think there's only so much you can put into words to really express how you went through it. So, I mean, if each individual would obviously get their own feeling out of that, but what you've expressed here is just so moving and so inspirational. The title of the podcast is Eagle Freedom Presents, and what you've gone through is simply amazing. So let me ask you this. This is where I usually like to end things, and that is going through what you've gone through, the experience, the waterfall, the colors, the silhouettes, meeting with Jesus. What does freedom mean to you now?
Just being able to live, first of all, live and be healthy. Health to me is just everything now. Being off all those meds were killing my liver, and I was at a point where my doctor said I had non-alcoholic sclerosis. I hope I said that right. Non-alcoholic sclerosis of the liver.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm like, well, I don't drink. They said, no, it's non-alcoholic. It's because I get a lot of fatty tissue. So when you don't have your health, you're miserable, and it can take you into dark places, but you can have it back no matter how far away you are. Pray for it, and they'll help you. 100%. They will help you.
There's a gentleman I got to meet several years ago. His name's David Gilmore. He was the founder of Fiji Water and many other other things he found. But one of his biggest thing was that he always said was, without your health, nothing else matters. And it's so true, because if you
Yeah.
don't have your health, you really can't do anything about that. Sound like a true statement to you?
100%. Yeah. You
All right.
definitely, if you don't have health, you're done,
Well, again, I want to remind everybody the name of the book is called Miracles Are Normal. It's available now. You can get it on Amazon. You can read Jacqueline's story. And Jacqueline, I just want to thank you very much for spending some time with us, sharing some more details about your life-altering experience. It's really been just an amazing journey to sit here and listen to you tell us about your journey.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate that.
All right. And for our audience out there, thank you very much for tuning into this. And just think about this for a second. Maybe you can drop it in the comments. If you had that experience, that opportunity to go one-on-one with Jesus, what kind of question or what would you want to ask of Jesus? What's that one thing that would be on your mind? And remember that you too can rise, inspire, and overcome. God bless.
To learn more about our mission and become a part of #Rio Movement, visit eaglefreedompresents.com. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs a beacon of hope. If you know someone who has an amazing story of overcoming, send us an email to eaglefreedompresents@gmail.com. And remember our mantra: rise, inspire, overcome.